Oh, baby, it's been a long road. That is for sure. I was on a call, listening to replay today, actually. You got to recognize that each of us brings our own particular gifts to the game. And it was a question about coming into a training program. And what they were trying to get everybody to recognize was that each of us have been through a path in life that have offered different insights, different gifts. And I was reflecting on my gifts, my path, my difficulties, my problems, and suggesting that some people might be struggling with similar problems. It's a beautiful sunset here. Sun's going down. I'm just going to survey the land. Oh, look at this. There's a seat here. Sounds fantastic. I live at Broken Head. It's near Byron Bay. I used to joke around with patients when they were coming depressed. I'm like, you know that most of the world are thinking if I could just get to Australia, everything would be okay. And then all of those in Australia are thinking if I could just get to Byron Bay, then everything would be okay. And here you are in Byron Bay, whinging and whining about your situation. What, not enough rainbows, not enough dolphins, not enough waves, not enough whales, not enough beauty? I'm like, open your eyes. Can't you see? And so for a long time back in the day, I was chasing this experience of flow, the zone. I would get it during tennis. I would get it in exams. I would get it skiing. And I was fascinated by it because I could do amazing things. You know this place. The mind disappears. You almost become one with the experience. You are one with the experience. I remember one time I was playing tennis and I just played amazing for like 5 games. And then I dropped out of it. I started having a thought that I was going to win and it was gone. I lost the whole match. And it wasn't until 2005 that I went up and I visited my friend and he was studying acupuncture. I was a doctor by this point, been 4 years in the game. Before that, 4 years in med school. Before that, 3 years of Bachelor of Science. Before that, a whole bunch of school. And I come to these guys, I'm like, whatever you are doing seems to be leaving you in the flow state most of the time, like all the time. And I became fascinated with this journey to acupuncture and Taoism and Chinese medicine. And eventually that opened up so I've studied Western medicine, I've studied Eastern medicine. And then this whole game of business opened up. My parents got divorced over money, essentially over money. It was inability to read financial statements, inability to know how to manage money, how to make it work for them. And it cost them their marriage. And so I was interested in this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, showed up. And I'm like, well, check this out. Now, like most people who jumped on Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they thought it was like real estate. And so I got into cash flow. I actually even did the stock market for a while. A guy called, what was his name? His name, keylevels.com, Paul. Really cool guy. And he was like, hey, this is how you play the game of the stock market. But it was too advanced. I freaked myself out so badly. I remember one day I had $4,000 on BHP and then it went up and I was at 12 grand and I didn't take it up and then it went down. I'm like, this game is too hard on the emotions for me. But I get it. But if you're like, the study of that fascinated me, but I realized I was not a stock trader. Or at least I wasn't supported enough, didn't have enough experience to do it. We went into real estate. I met my wife by then. And we went and we bought a house in Brisbane and we had kids. So that's been another developmental experience, both marriage and kids. Oh my goodness. Wow. Talk about a learning curve. Wow. You really should have to sign more paperwork. You really should have to have a whole lot more training in those games. Both of those are extremely difficult. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But I'm into medicine. I'm into Eastern medicine. I'm into Taoism. And then as I'm leaving Ireland, we had headed to Ireland just before my son was, after Melbourne, into Ireland for about 2 years. This was back when the Irish were like, hey, we'll take all the Australian doctors. So I worked 2 years, 18 months, 2 years in emergency. And that was awesome, but we came back. And during that time, two things happened. One, I had these spiritual experiences. I'm like, oh my goodness, there is clearly something else going on than this material plane. Occasionally, rarely. Not only have we got this flow state occasionally happening, every now and then there is these really weird spiritual experiences. And as I'm leaving Ireland, a friend of mine hands me a burnt copy of Krishna Das. And this album was called Door of Faith. And for whatever reason, I come back to Brisbane, I'm having a really hard time. Really hard time. And I'm playing this CD over and over and over. For some reason, it resonates with me. And I didn't even know at the time what this song was, what this track, but the sixth track on that is called the Hanuman Chalisa. And that was my first introduction to the Bhakti path. Recounting my life here, it's crazy. It's like wild. If you're interested in training with me, I want you to know this is not for everybody. Like, you have to be a little on the edge to want to train with me. This is definitely not the beginner's course. But if that is something you're interested in, then send me a message. Tell me what's going on in your world. Might have a couple of tools. So 2008, back in Brisbane, given Door of Faith, we move, and actually I'm struggling. And one night, I find these guys called Magician's Way. Now, I'm driving to the workshop, like the sales presentation. I didn't know it was a sales presentation at that time, but I'm on my way, and there are these lightning bolts and thunderstorm, crazy wild experience. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that's pretty interesting. And I show up and I meet these guys, and they seem to have something way more than I was getting at the time. Like, fine, let's just take this step. And they did a cool meditation called the Land of Plenty. You turn into a blue ball of energy and then drop out of the sky. And I was working with my coach, Adam, and Adam opens up. I'm like, dude, it feels like the beach. He's like, dude, it's Byron. Move to Byron. I'm like, what the fuck? You got to be kidding me. He's like, yeah, move to Byron. Land of Plenty. It's here. I'm like, okay. So we moved to Byron. This did not go well with my wife. We had a web development business. I'm in GP training. We have a baby. She's pregnant with Hamish, who's 6 months in. And she is not a happy camper to move to Byron. She's like, this place is full of dirty hippies. It sucks. It sucks. And after about 6 months of people saying, hey, you must be so happy, this place is amazing, that finally she was able to open her eyes a little bit and see the beauty. And I'm going through medical training, hunting down acupuncture while learning Magician's Way. And in 2011, my friend shows up and he's like, hey, why don't you go and check out this Mankind project? I'm like, all right, dude. So far, he had provided very good things in my life. I'm like, all right. So I go and show up with Mankind project. Now, this is back in the day with Mankind project. Like, it was hardcore masculine. They had not discovered the feminine at all. This was not for everybody. Some people who were carrying wounds from masculine found it extremely traumatizing. I was like, fine, this is cool, whatever. Let's go. And out of that came a mission. A mission. This was extremely helpful for me. What was the mission? The mission was for a world of self-responsibility and truth through music and healing. And I already had the healing piece down, but music was a bit of a, I'm like, what the hell's this music thing? And that's where that CD came in. I started following and learning the harmonium, and it took a while. So I got this music piece going on. I got Western medicine, Eastern medicine, Bhakti Yoga, marriage, kids, music, and then we're building houses. We moved to Byron, we struggle around. Philippa is coming. She's 38 weeks, and we get kicked out of our house. And my wife's like, dude, you need to take the day off and find us somewhere to move. And so we find a rental in Lennox. Pip gets born. 1 month later, we're driving back up, and my wife goes, hey, do you want to check out 2 acres in Broken Head? And I'm like, you fucking better believe I do. So we drive on this property that we're on right now, and I take 3 steps and go, we should buy this. Empty block, 2 trees on this thing. Little did I know what I was signing up for, but we secure it. And it's tough for a while. For a while, it took 18 months to settle. So for a while, I'm paying mortgage on a piece of land that I cannot use, as well as rent on registrar pay. And I'm like, stressed out of my mind. Oh my God, my wife's like doing 1 or 2 days up to Brisbane each week to run her business until that got sold, building houses. I've glitched most of this. Like, it was so intense, so ridiculously intense. 3 kids. Finally, the cottage gets built, the main house arrives, we renovate that. And in amongst that, I'm struggling so badly with marriage that I'm on a podcast and this guy goes, hey, if you're an entrepreneur and you're married and you don't know what the hell you're doing, then you should join up. And I'm like, okay, how much is it? He's like, well, normally it's $10,000. For you today, I got a special. It's $100 for a book. I'm like, $100 for a book? You got to be kidding me. So he had this hilarious offer in retrospect. He's like, right, I'm going to give you 2 books and an audio copy of the book for $100. Normally the book is $100. I'm going to give you 2 copies of the same book and an audio copy of the same book. It's $100. I'm like, yes, I'm all in. Hell yeah. It's so funny. Like, literally, that makes no sense. Like, I don't know if you're picking that up. Like, if I didn't buy the one book at $100, then why would 3 copies of the same thing make a difference? But it did. I bought. I'm in. I'm reading the book, and I'm learning the Wake Up Warrior game. Core 4, and the code, and the door, and the stack. And I've been in this game. So I got Mankind Project. I've got Bhakti Yoga, Wake Up Warrior. And I was in a call a while back. And they were like, hey, did you ever think to look back? Maybe there are some people struggling. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe this, if you're watching this right now, you're meant to send me a message and say, hey, Tom, I need some help. And we jump on a call together and run through your situation. There's crazy shit that's going on in my life. And if that can allow you to move quicker and faster through your difficulties, like, that's the game. That's the game. Can I pay someone to get me through my current difficulties faster and quicker and more effectively than I can do myself? Mankind Project started in 1987. Do you think when they started it was as smooth and refined as it is now? Hell no. Wake Up Warrior started in 2012. Do you think it's as smooth and refined as it is now back then? Hell no. Bhakti Yoga? Ooh, guess what? It was as smooth and refined as it was back then as it is now. Why? Well, if you follow Bhakti Yoga, or at least my game, through TJ Frank, to Ram Dass, to Neem Karoli Baba. Like, Neem Karoli Baba is done. He's through all of his karma. He's hanging out, just being God. It's like, whoa. So that game, that's the pinnacle game. These other ones, these are just little tools. Mankind Project, extremely helpful. Wake Up Warrior, extremely helpful. But the real deal, Bhakti Yoga. So, this is either calling to you or you're like, this guy's a wanker. If I'm a wanker, unsubscribe, get out of my world. Not interested. But if you're like, you know what, maybe there's something here, I'm going to suggest to you that your next step is to direct message me. Let me know what's going on. If you can't find a direct message on Facebook, that's fine. Send me an email at drtom@graduatemedicine.com. All right. That's all I got for you. I'm going to go have some butter chicken. I got my son at work who needs to pick up later on, and we're going to go hang out with our friends down the lane, have a beer or two. So I hope you're having an awesome Saturday night. Going to watch the Matildas. Catch you next time.